Hi! Welcome back to Eye of the Beholder painting tutorials. Today we'll be doing Daenerys from the Song of Ice and Fire board game. I'm also going to be doing a video on the dragons, but that'll be separate because I wanted to focus on some of the techniques I used only on Daenerys. I began with it primed in black and then some grey primer from above for the basic highlights. I usually use white, but I just ran out, so I dry brushed a white paint along the model like I did in my Drider video. I decided to start with the skin tone, made a base of Bugman's Glow mixed with Cadian Flesh Tone, and then added increasing amounts of Cadian Flesh Tone for the midtones, and then highlighted with the addition of some Flayed One's Flesh, because the Targaryens, they're a pale bunch. I also very kindly had some reference photos from the professional paint jobs of these models, and I tried to get my models as close to them as possible. I then spent a very long time on the dress before realizing that the tones that I used were very much not what I wanted, so I ended up just scrapping it. I restarted this by making the full gradient just on my palette. For the darkest shadows, I had a dark mix of Rhinox Hide and Talaran Sand, with some Retributor Gold put in there to keep the tone warm and to cause a metallic sheen. One of the midtones was Talaran Sand with a small amount of Retributor Gold, but also with the addition of some Averland Sunset. My second brightest tone was a lighter mix of Baneblade Brown, Flayed One's Flesh, and of course the same gold. And finally, the highlights were done by just adding some more Flayed One's Flesh into the last mix. For the placement of the highlights, I just followed the reference photo very closely. This was also a good learning experience for me because I was able to see how the professional did this, and now I have an idea of how to kind of do this thing in the future. Basically, I just used a lot of contrast between the shadows and the highlights, and it actually turned out perfectly. I did try to do some wet blending, but all in all it doesn't really have to be that incredibly smooth. And then with all the main tones down, I decided to thin my gold down with just some water and then glaze it over the highlights of the dress to give it more of a golden sheen. Then I moved on to the belt. It's a small section, but it has a lot of contrasting colors in it. I made a shadow tone with pure Doom Bull brown, added in some Scrag brown for the lighter highlights, and then used Scrag brown and Troll Slayer orange at different brightnesses for the highlights and the lining. For my absolute brightest, I just put some Flayed One's Flesh into my lightest tone. I wanted to do the hair next, and as I was looking at the reference photo, I was kind of confused by what colors were actually in the platinum blonde. I eventually realized that the bright tone is almost a sort of greenish tint to it, so my base tone consisted of a mix of everyone's favorite Flayed One's Flesh and some Nurgling green. For the highlights, I just used some white and some parts of Averland Sunset to keep with the regular yellow tones. I talked about my process of painting hair a little bit more in my Drider video, but it's a very heavy contrast game. Keep the highlights very bright and then keep the bobs in the hair the brightest. It's a hard thing to master, but using reference photos and practice it'll come to you easily eventually. I'm just adding in some brighter skin tone highlights here because I wasn't happy with how not pale she was. I also zoomed in, and god I hope I stay in focus the whole time because my webcam is finicky. Now I decided to do the face details. For her lipstick, I based it in Bugman's Glow mixed with some corn red. I had to be careful not to give her a different expression than on the model here, and let me tell you, that is difficult. But any mistakes I made could just be corrected back with some of the skin tones. I also took a bit of a darker skin tone and lined the edges of the dress and also under the armpits to try to accentuate the shadows a little bit. And now for what I should have done first, the eyes. For the first step, I just darkened the surrounding area and I just thinned down some Ryan Oxide. Then I sketched in the eyes with pure white and a lot of anxiety. The pupils were just pure black. Only things left now are her cape and those weird spiky things. I decided to go for the cape next. I just used the same technique as on the dress, except all of my colors were way darker. Base of Orion Oxide, some additions of Doom Bull Brown, mid-tone of Scrag Brown, first highlight of Scrag Brown with some Troll Slayer Orange, and then highlight of that mixture with additions of Averland Sunset. I like to sketch in my dark shadows first and then slowly highlight around them. I find it's easier and faster to paint everything the tone it's supposed to be as opposed to painting the whole thing one color and then slowly highlighting up from there. I only came to this realization recently, so don't judge me. Again, I'm sorry for the focus and the lights. My setup is trash and I'm very broke. Now for the spiky things. Base tone of Corn Red and Rhinoxide, and then highlights of Corn Red and Mephiston Red, and then brightest is including Trollslayer Orange. Oh, I forgot about her jewelry. I used pure retributor gold, with highlights including Flayed One's flesh on her bracelets, rings, and crown. The paint job is now done. Now it's basing time. And don't mind the dragons in the background, I just thought it'd be easier just to base them all at once. As a solid base, I mixed some Eshin Grey into some Rhinoxide, and then randomly wet blended in Scrag Brown and Straken Green. It's either Straken or Straken, and I'm pretty sure it's Straken. Once that dried, I dry brushed some more Straken Green over the lighter parts, and then dry brushed Cadian Flesh Tone over just the whole thing. Then I grabbed some grass texture, some frozen tufts, and clear dry glue, and randomly placed grassy bits. And with that, she was done! I hope you enjoyed this, I hope you learned something, or hey, maybe you have your own Song of Ice and Fire minis and this might help you out. Either way, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to comment or contact me. Thank you.